So I heard it on here,
away.
then I heard it on my phone, and now I'm watching you on my phone listen to it.
Is that what it is? Will you turn down the volume all the way on your phone, and then maybe we can get this to work?
Oh, I guess that maybe makes sense. There seems to be like a delay on Instagram compared to this now. I don't know what that's about.
I don't understand. Oh my god, I didn't even add you to the live on Instagram. Give me 2 seconds. Oh my god. Okay, no, cancel and add. Accept. I would like you to.
Hi.
I'm sure everybody would like me to at this point. Good God almighty, Emily, what are you even doing?
I turned the volume down all the way. Oh, it went right back up. Okay. Hopefully that's better.
Oh shit, it did the same thing on mine. What is it doing? Why does it hate me? Maybe.
Yeah, it does not like us.
You know, it's going to be better this next time. Next time I'll have a better. We'll figure it out. Yeah. Okay, so everybody, thank you for being patient.
Yes, thank you.
For being patient, not patient. Good God almighty. Okie dokie. Oh my God. Okay, let's try this again. Hi, welcome to tonight's episode. We are going to finally be finishing number 4, Jack the Ripper.
Yay!
Huzzah! Is it still streaming the right way on the other thing? Because I just realized what I did.
I think so.
Okay, good. Because I have to open up my document with my notes. Now, maybe. Where is it? Oh, I didn't scroll down far enough. Okay, content warnings. No, I do have a document. I very much so have a document. What the fudge did you do with it? Oh, motherfucking goddamn it. I realized what I just did. Give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
Don't mind me. Lose my mind over here. Holy shite. So how's everyone doing today? I hope it's been wonderful. Better than my non-brainment. Like, I'm so fried. You guys, I haven't slept in over 24 hours. I had just ridiculous insomnia. And I was this close to having all my shit together. Alright, content warning. Adult language, graphic talk of murder, classism, misogyny. I don't think we're talking about miscarriages in this one, but it's possible. Talk of medical nature, alcoholism, mental health. This episode has some particularly gruesome. I just realized what I could do to kill the feedback. But I don't think I have my mic down here. No, shit, it's upstairs. I know how to fix it for next time, though.
Okay.
Yeah, the graphic talk of murder on this one is particularly intense because Mary Kelly's body was trashed. It's okay. I'm going to jump right into it because we're doing both Catherine Eddowes and Mary Kelly.
And there's a lot to get through.
It is a lot to get through. It is. So we're going to pop in with Catherine Eddowes. I'm just going to kind of read straight through my notes with introductions from Kate, and if anybody pops on, Yeah. Okay. So Catherine was born on April 14th, 1842 to George and Catherine Eddowes. One of 12 children, there were two of the siblings that died in their youth. At the time, 48.9% of English women couldn't even sign their name. That's the type of educational background we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why I shoved it right there in the notes, but there you go. Oh, because Catherine was lucky to receive an education from a charity/Christian school. She graduated at the age of 14, and it happened to coincide with her father losing his job and her mother becoming ill, ultimately leading to her death. Her father fell ill shortly after. Upon his death, Eddowes' older sister sent her to live with family in Wolverhampton, while the three youngest children and Catherine's mentally disabled oldest brother were sent to Bermondsey Union Workhouse as orphans, which everybody there dies. I think we talked about it before. You send kids to to those workhouses and they die. I don't know.
So sad.
So she got a job at Old Hall Works, which was a tinworks company that three generations of her family had worked at. And actually, her father and her uncle were part of a big protest that happened at that company, but that was a whole other thing that we don't have time to get back into, which is like why he lost his job in the first place. Her behavior was increasingly reckless, and by 1861 she was caught stealing from the old Hall Works. She was dismissed but not charged. At 19, she left to live with her uncle Thomas in Birmingham, who was a bare knuckle boxer.
Oh, damn.
So she got another tin working job there. And about a year later, she met Thomas Conway, a retired soldier in failing health. Her family did not like him. I believe he was significantly older than her, too.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, her aunt told her that she could either break up with him or leave the house. So she left the house. And she moved into a lodge house with Conway and got knocked up shortly after. Eddowes and Conway never officially married. It was really a common thing for a certain class back then. It was just kind of like having a common law spouse. People weren't worried about it. They had 3 children together. During this time, Eddowes had become an alcoholic, which led to rifts and violent fights between the couple. Since Conway was a teetotaler. And
Yeah, that's going to be a problem.
yeah, for those not familiar with teetotalers, it was a movement that was very much so you don't drink alcohol.
Right.
They were like trying to get it banned or something, I believe. So yeah, the drinking did not fit, and they ended up splitting up in 1880. By 1881, she was living with her new boyfriend, John Kelly, a fruit salesman. It is so weird, like the things that end up lining up between her and like a couple of the other victims, because she ended up with a boyfriend named John Kelly, and that is the name that Mary Kelly claimed was her father's name. So, like, not the same John Kelly at all. It's just
Right, but still interesting.
coincidence. Yeah. So she took on domestic work, but it was not paying the bills. And she was often forced to sleep rough, which was their term for having to sleep in the streets, basically.
Right. Yeah.
So Eddowes was known as a jolly woman in the life of the party. She was actually a pretty good singer. And I know she sung in taverns, and I'm trying to remember if like she ever got paid for it or if it was just something she did. So now let's get into the timeline of her death. 8:30 p.m. on September 29th, she entertains a crowd with a drunken impression of a fire truck. This the type of stuff she did. Because she's the life of the party.
Right.
She ends up falling asleep on the pavement. PC Robinson of the city police arrived on the scene and asked if any of the onlookers knew who she was or where she lived, and nobody did. Robinson summoned a colleague, PC George Simmons, to assist in bringing the unconscious Eddowes to Bishopgate Police Station. Here, when asked her name, she replied, nothing. Oh, she also went by Kate. I forgot to say that. So, that should be nice and comfortable for you.
Yeah. It's a common name. I'm used to it now.
Yeah, at some point we're going to end up with an Emily in the case, so. The officers placed her in a cell and left her to sober up. She soon fell into a comatose sleep. PC George Hutt, the city gaoler, came on duty at 11 p.m. and took over the responsibility for prisoners in the cells. He checked on her several times over the next few hours, and she was still asleep. By 12:15 a.m., she had woken and heard her singing softly. 12:55, she is released. When asked her name and address for the release paper, she told him it was Mary Ann Kelly of 6 Fashion Street. So this is another thing where we end up with a coincidence, because Mary Ann is Polly Nichols, the first victim's legal name is Mary Ann, and then of course Kelly again. According to Hutt's later estimation, it would have taken her around 8 minutes ordinary walking, not rocking, to reach Mitre Square, during which time the murderer of Elizabeth Stride was also heading towards the square from the opposite direction. At 1:30 a.m., PC Watkins of the city police passed the southeast corner on his beat that brought him through Mitre Square every 12 to 14 minutes. At that point, the square was empty. I hope you cannot hear my heater whining.
I can't.
Okay, to me it's super loud, but I also have misophonia, so. Okay, so 1:35, 3 men pass by and see a woman and a man intimately talking. One of the men, Joseph Wendy, testified that the woman was wearing the clothes that Kate Eddowes was found in. Like, her clothing matched the description.
Mm-hmm.
At 1:44, PCU Watkins finds Catherine's body in Mitre Square. That is so close. So close. Eddowes' kidney was removed in her mutilation. This became significant when police received a kidney accompanying the From Hell letter. And this is one of the things where, depending on the site, because the letters were, and we'll get into the letters more, I can't remember if I said we were doing the letters next year or if we're doing theories next year. I don't remember. It's coming for one of the future Jack the Ripper fests. So, yeah, but the thing with the letters is that none of them could really be confirmed as having been from the actual killer. This is what happens when you have media sensationalization of things like this.
Mm-hmm.
You get copycats and people trying to jump in on it because people are weird. It was her kidney, or the fact that a human kidney, what was believed to be human kidney, arrived with the From Hell letter when Eddowes had a kidney removed, that made them feel this was a legitimate letter from him.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just kind of did a handwriting analysis from there to look at other ones that they thought could be from him. Now, here's the weird part. Because I swear to you, like, I don't know, maybe I'm Mandela effect and jumped into a different fudging universe. But I swear to you, when I was researching this when I was 13, they had said that kidney suffered from Bright's disease, which is affects the kidneys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those where if you're looking at the kidney of a person post-mortem, whatever, you can see the signs of Bright's disease on the kidney. And that the kidney had signs of Bright's disease. And that was like a further confirming. I cannot find the information now. Even from the same website I remember finding it from. Like, now I need to go and find the printed off files I have from back then and double check it. Because I'm like, what the fuck? What the... You know? Speaking of Mandela effects, I got whammed by another one this week. You know the movie The Nightmare Before Christmas?
Mm-hmm.
And his little ghost dog?
Mm-hmm.
What does his nose look like?
Oh, I don't remember.
Was it a red glowing nose, maybe?
No, I don't think so.
See, then you didn't get hit by the Mandela effect. Because those of us who jumped from that alternate universe, he had a red glowing nose. It's a pumpkin nose.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Yeah, that one screwed me up. I'm like, God damn it, Mandela effect. So I don't know what's going on with this kidney thing. I don't. But I remember that very, very clearly. Anywho. By this time, it was like the town, or not town, the district of Whitechapel was taking these murders very personally. They were really invested. So for her, hundreds attended her funeral and burial. Now into Mary Kelly. There's not a lot known about her early life.
Right.
Nothing can be confirmed. I'll stress that a gajillion times. You're going to hear me say it a couple of times because nothing can be confirmed. Not even her existence under any name she ever gave anybody. Which she was also known as Marie Jeanette Kelly. But Mary Jane is what she, I guess, was officially. No, because on her death certificate, I'm pretty sure they put Marie Jeanette. I don't know, whatever. Everything anybody knew about her was based solely on whatever she told them.
Mm-hmm.
She arrived in Whitechapel between 1883 to 1884. She was born in Limerick, Ireland around 1863. Her father, John Kelly, moved the family across the Irish
Nope.
Irish
Straight.
Sea.
Oh, Irish Sea.
Yeah. See, you didn't get it right either, huh?
Well, I thought that's what you were trying to say, and we're messing up, but
nope. It's not even a hard one to say.
What about I wish to wash my Irish wristwatch?
Yes. You know which one I had a really, really hard time with? Was when I did the little mini video on our TikTok, which, by the way, if nobody else knows, we are on TikTok as well.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was doing the one on Greek mythology, and I had to say Hera was hella petty, but I was speaking fast because it's TikTok and you have limited. So I was like, Hera was hella petty. And Aaron was making fun of me for not being able to say it. And he's like, you just need to slow it down. You're trying to say it too fast. And I'm like, but I got to say it fast. So he goes to say it slow and steady to show me how easy it is. And he totally biffed it. I'm like, God damn, where's the camera when you need it? I was
Right?
like, at him so hard. I'm like, suck it.
That's funny.
Anyhow, her father moved the family across the Irish Sea to Wales when she was very young and settled for a time in. Now, I'm going to fuck this one up and I'm just going to rule with the fact that I'm fucking it up because I didn't end up looking up the pronunciation on it. Caernarvonshire. Caernarvonshire? Yeah. Or Carameth. Or I probably said that right. No, because it's Carmarthen. Carmarthen? She claims to have been one of 9 children, which is weird because it says she would say she had 6 brothers and a sister. And I don't know if it was like she was claiming there was another one that died or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But one of those brothers was supposed to have been named Henry, although he went by John or Johnette, which is actually a lot of the stuff was like, yeah, it's really weird that he strangely went by this name, but it happens a lot. I don't know why. It's like people who are named Jonathan that sometimes end up going by Jack. It's a thing.
I think sometimes like you're named after a relative or something, but that's never what they were going to call you.
No, but you see it a lot, though. A lot of
Mhm.
Johns end up going by Jack, and a lot of Henrys will go by John. They'll go
Mhm.
like by Hank. Like Hank makes sense as a shortening for Henry, but I don't know what the thing with the Henry John thing is, but
Yeah.
it's a thing. And she claimed that he served in the 2nd Battalion of the Scots Guard. She also claimed to have a sister whom she was very fond of. Wow, I used the word claimed like a shit ton doing these notes. I apologize. She claimed to have married a coal miner named Davis or Davies at the age of 16 and that he died in an explosion a year or 2 later. Following her husband's death, she went to Cardiff where she had family. Well, there she spent 8 or 9 months in the infirmary, but there's no like why she would have been in an infirmary
Mhm.
at the time. Like it wasn't, oh, because I was grief stricken over my husband's death or anything like that. It's just like, yeah, I was in an infirmary for a suspicious amount of time. I derailed myself. Oh, yeah. So after being in the infirmary, she fell in with a cousin who followed a bad life.
Mhm.
Or at least this is the story she told her lover, Joseph Barnett. Others she told that she was Welsh, came from a well-to-do life, had parents in Cardiff, and arrived in London between 1882 and 1883. Still others were told that she was Irish and regularly exchanged mothers. Well, I mean, somehow that still fits. But it's supposed to be regularly exchanged letters with her mother, who still lived in Ireland. Or she would claim to have a female relative in London who was a stage performer.
Mhm.
Some people testified to Kelly claiming that she had a 2-year-old child. Once again, no records of the child. No one ever saw this kid. I don't. Maybe I didn't dive deep enough, but I couldn't even find like anything what she said the kid's name was. But then that ties back to, oh, you were in infirmary for 8 to 9 months after your husband's death, you say.
Right. Mhm.
So maybe there's truth in there somewhere, but like there aren't records anywhere. I mean, not that there were records of her existing, even, so whatever.
Right.
The things that are certain,
She did die.
right? She died horribly.
She definitely died, and that we know.
Mhm.
Whether or not she lived, we don't know, but she did die.
Yeah. Somebody lived and somebody died. And those two somebodies were the same somebody.
Right.
Or were they? Dun dun dun. I mean, well, I'll get into the details of that in a second. It's not that there's actually a question, but if somebody were to ask a question, I'd be like, I'm not surprised,
Right.
given what happened to her. So I'm sorry, I have this hangnail and it's driving me nuts. And like the fact that I didn't sleep is fucking with my ADD, so I can't like not concentrate on it. And it's driving me up a virgin wall. So that's why you keep seeing me going at my finger.
Okay.
Anywho, so what is certain about her life is that she was way too scholarly to not have received some form of education, like finishing school education. Because it wasn't just like, oh, she knew a lot of things or she was intelligent. There are certain ways that people who are, I don't, is this still looking good on the other tab, like on the other stream? Is the
I
camera
think
still in
so.
a good place? Okay. Yeah, there's certain ways that people talk and carry themselves and so forth if they've been through a formal education that she very obviously had that.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing was that she was a capable artist, which I cannot properly stress how much I want to see her art. As far as I know, there is none that has been preserved,
Mm-hmm.
and it breaks my heart. So much of these women was lost.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see that the things we actually knew about her in such a mysterious life. Kelly is believed to have originally been working among, oh no, she was working among upper class sex workers. In these, yeah, we have an extra minute to get into it. So in these situations, there were these areas in London where if you were lucky, you could fall in with a madam or work at a brothel. In these cases, the gentleman callers came to you. And it was just very like, these are well to do men. This is like the safest you're going to be in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
There were also places that weren't officially brothels. They were like gentlemen's, or not gentlemen's clubs, but they were clubs and restaurants that were specifically known for, this is where you go and this is the ritual you do.
Right.
And there were certain areas that the women walking in those areas were, it was known among the crowds that these women, even though they gave like all the appearance of being proper upper class women because they could afford to, they were making more money and they were being backed by a madam. And it's not exactly the same as having a pimp to have a madam,
Right.
because they had more control over their own lives. Like if you want room and board and stuff, you're going to follow the rules.
Mm-hmm.
But if you leave for a different life, there's nobody coming after you. It's not the same. Anyhow, in these areas though, the men would follow certain rituals when approaching the women. There was this back and forth that was, the confirmation of, okay, you're a sex worker, I'm looking to purchase services.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the situations that Mary Kelly was working in.
Mm-hmm.
However, she ended up meeting a gentleman who invited her to come along with him to Paris. This was, you're young, you're doing your thing, you're whatever, and some charming gentleman is like, come away with me. A lot of girls fell for this.
Mm-hmm.
So she never provided her partner, Joseph, with any further details on the affair, like, at all.
Okay.
It's just, yeah, I went there. She was there for a couple weeks. And says, oh, I came back because the position I didn't like the part. The thing, though, that there's a lot of room to believe may have happened was during that time a lot of these girls who worked in these upper houses,
Mm-hmm.
or the upper realms of the sex trade, and not even just those who were working in the sex trade, but those who were vulnerable to the whole man swooping them up and away to a foreign country, were
Mm-hmm.
then sold into sex trade. Once again, this is different from being an independent sex worker.
Right.
You are a sex slave. So there's a lot of room to believe that that is what was happening. And because she was a smart woman and had the experience that she had, she was able to squirrel out of there before the jaws clamped down and it was too late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is the belief. But we can't 100% know for sure. That's what we just covered. As Kelly returned after only a few weeks. Oh, yeah, we already said that. In 1888, Kelly and Joseph Barnett moved in together, and they rented a room in Miller's Court. When I say a room, I mean a room. This is not an apartment, it's a room.
It's a room. Yeah.
It's a room. By October, Joseph's unemployment, so he was, he was a fisherman, something like that. But the pay, like, the job wasn't steady, the pay wasn't steady, and the constant unemployment led to Mary having to go back into sex work.
Mm-hmm.
And this caused a lot of fights between them. Like, I'm not sure, I don't have 100%, but I'm thinking, when you think about the types of fights, like, I'm mad that I have to do this because you're not making money, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm mad that you're going into prostitution and not trusting me to provide, whatever. There's a lot of
Right.
room for
Yeah.
tension, and poverty breeds tension to begin with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You ask probably any marriage counselor, any religious leader that's done counseling with couples, and they'll tell you the two most common things that break a couple are money and overly involved in-law tension. Well, they don't have to worry about in-laws, but money. Money is the number one thing that'll break.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad. Like, I don't want to be the horrifically jaded person in the room, but y'all need to know the reality. If any of you out there haven't figured this out yet or haven't learned this, love is not the all magical, powerful end all.
Mm-mm.
Poverty will break you, no matter how much you're in love.
Yep.
Mary and Joseph remained on good terms. It wasn't this big break and there's nobody cares about anybody. But the situation ended up that by October, Kelly had invited another one of the sex workers named Julia to live with them. And at that point, Joseph was like, no, I can't do this. This is. Unfortunately, there was never a chance to reconcile or see what happened next because this was 2 weeks prior to her murder.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph last saw Mary on the night of November 8th around 7 to 8 p.m. He spoke with her and he apologized that he had no money to give her to help with the rent, which tells me he wasn't quite done with really being like, we're over.
Mm-hmm.
If he's like, I'm sorry, I don't have any money to give you. Because who would care if you're no longer together?
Right.
So this is going to break down by time, basically the same thing we just did with Catherine, the timeline of her murder here. So November 8th, 11:45 p.m., her neighbor Marianne Cox saw her returning home with a, quote, shout, stabby, blotchy-faced man who was estimated to be in his 30s. Mary Kelly was drunk, and she told Mrs. Cox that she was going to sing. November 9th, midnight, 1 a.m., several neighbors heard Mary singing Only a Violet I Plucked from My Mother's Grave. By 2 a.m., George Hutchinson met her on Commercial Street. She asked him for sixpence. He declined on account of the fact that he was spent up. Mary continued along Commercial Street and began talking with a man near the junction with Thrall Street. The two ended up going off together, and she led the man into Miller's Court. Oh, wait, Hutchinson. Okay, so George Hutchinson waited on the other side of Dorset Street for 45 minutes, but neither the man nor Mary Kelly came back. Around 4 a.m., several neighbors heard a faint cry of murder from the direction of Mary Kelly's room. Once again, we go into there was a lot of shit going on back then, and it was a poor neighborhood, and it was a crime-soaked neighborhood. So if you hear somebody yell murder, your instinct is not going to be to go do something about it. You don't have a cell phone, you can't call 911. Somebody has to physically go down to the police station and say, hey, I heard somebody crying murder.
Yeah.
And that was, I don't know, however long it takes you to walk from there to the police station to go.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody did anything, like they heard it, but nothing was done about it. 8 to 10 a.m., several people claimed to have seen Mary Kelly in the surrounding streets. 8:45, John McCarthy sent Thomas Boyer to her room to collect her overdue rent. That's
Mm-hmm.
how it started. Sorry. So Boyer got no response when he knocked on the door, and he went around to the window to peek in, and there's Mary Kelly's mutilated body on the bed. Shook him. So he goes back to McCarthy's shop, and the quote is, Governor, he spluttered, I knocked at the door and could not make anyone answer. I looked through the window and saw a lot of blood. So they hustled down from the shop down to Miller's Court, where she was. And McCarthy did the same thing. He pushed aside the curtain. Oh, I should say there was a broken pane in the window.
Mm-hmm.
That
And that
he
was how she would unlock the door.
That's how, where it says he pushed aside the curtain
Mm-hmm.
because he reached through the broken pane.
Right.
like one of the big fights that her and Joseph had resulted in one of the window panes getting broken.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I say, he pushed aside the curtain. That's because he reached through. So he pushed aside the curtain and he sees her horrifically mutilated body.
Right.
So he's looking at this, the bed behind the wall, blood all over it. On the bedside table was a pile of her skin. On the bed, she was barely recognizable as even being human was Mary Kelly. Uh, okay, so he's quoted, "The sight that we saw, I cannot drive away from my mind. It looked more like the work of the devil than of a man. I had heard a great deal about the Whitechapel murders, but I declare to God I had never expected to see such a sight as this. The whole scene is more than I can describe. I hope I may never see such a sight as this again." After, whoa, that was really loud. After this, McCarthy sends Bauer to go fetch the police. So inspectors Walter Dew and Walter Beck were the ones who ended up coming back with him to the scene of the crime. And they did the same thing. They tried the door, couldn't get the door, looked through the window. Okay, so Inspector Beck looked through the window and he yelled at his partner, "For God's sake, dude, don't look." Which, of course, when you're told don't look, what's the first thing you do?
Mm-hmm.
Yell.
You look.
Yell. Dew says, "As my thoughts go back to Miller's Court and what happened there, the old nausea, indignation, and horror overwhelm me still. My mental picture of it remains as shockingly clear as though it were but yesterday. No savage could have been more barbaric. No wild animal could have done anything so horrifying." Oh, and then he also says, "The poor woman's eyes, they were wide open and seemed to be staring straight at me with a look of terror. Her face was so badly mutilated that what was used to identify her were her eyes and ears." That's what Joseph had to go by. Like, he could not identify her by anything else but to say, "Those are her eyes, those are her ears, as I know them and recognize them."
Wow.
Yeah. So when we say about that, or was it the same person? That's where I lead into there's that slight room for speculation,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not really a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to get into the post-mortem report. Advanced content, extra content warning, because this is very graphic.
Yeah.
It's possibly the most graphic. Aside from Sylvia Likens was graphic about what happened to her while she was alive, I think this is the most graphic post-mortem
Mm-hmm.
that we've done so far. Okay. So this is from Dr. Thomas Bond, who did the post-mortem. "The body was lying naked in the middle of the bed, the shoulders flat, but the axis of the body inclined to the left side of the bed. The head was turned on the left cheek. The left arm was close to the body, with the forearm flexed at a right angle and lying across the abdomen. The right arm was slightly abducted from the body and rested on the mattress. The elbow bent and the forearm supine, which means straight up, with fingers clenched. The legs were wide apart, the left thigh at right angles to the trunk, and the right forming an obtuse angle with the pubis. The whole of the surface of the abdomen and thighs was removed, which means that was all skinned.
Right. Yeah. That's where the skin came from that was on the table next to her.
Yeah. So everything on her thighs and abdomen. Her abdominal cavity was opened up and everything was scooped up. He says emptied of its viscera. Viscera is the connective tissue. It goes around your organs. It's the padding for them. And it's like so it individually pads the organs, but it also is like all connected.
Mhm.
In your abdomen, the only organs that are outside of the viscera are your kidneys. So when he says the viscera emptied of its viscera, that means everything was scooped out. Her breasts were cut off. The arms were mutilated with several jagged wounds, and the face was hacked beyond recognition. The tissues of the neck were severed all round down to the bone. So this is the only one where there wasn't evidence for them to say she was strangled and then her throat was slit.
Mhm.
They believe it was throat just slit straight to that because of how deep the wound went. The viscera are found in various parts. The uterus and kidney with one breast under the head, the other breast by the right foot, the liver between the feet, the intestines by the right side, and the spleen on the left side of the body. The flaps removed from the abdomen and thighs were on the table. Well, we just said that.
Yeah.
Okay, lots of blood. So much for that it was like it soaked through the mattress onto the floor. So the gashes around on the face weren't just like stab. It's like I'm gonna cut off your nose, I'm gonna cut off your ears, I'm gonna cut off your. And there were like a lot of jagged marks.
Mhm.
But it was a Stranger Danger podcast.
Hello.
Hi, nice to have you here. Yeah, it was a mess. Like, wow. I'm sorry, I didn't actually like read through all this before I put it in there. I'm like, damn. Mary Jane Kelly was buried at 2 p.m. Monday,
I have a penny.
19th of November in 1888, of course, because Penny!
Penny. Say hi,
Penny! I
Penny.
swear, she's our official mascot.
Right.
It really is. Like, every episode we end up saying, hi, Penny. Hi, Penny!
Because she has to be right by my side. She has to be right here every time.
She like, the mood was getting too bleak. I felt the need to be on camera.
Yeah. Here I am, your palate cleanser.
Yes.
You popper.
The bubber. Oh my gosh. It's just so ridiculously adorable. Okay, so she was buried. She was laid to rest in St. Patrick's Roman Catholic Cemetery in Leytonstone in a service officiated by the Reverend Father Columban. Since there weren't any family members, which is what we were talking about earlier, like nobody can confirm anything about her and no family was able to found, Joseph Barnett and the landlord were the ones who took care of making sure that she was buried and stuff. And they were the ones who were like, okay, she was Catholic. We're going to make sure she gets a Catholic burial.
Mm-hmm.
There were 8 people who were a part of the wedding procession. Wedding? Oh my God.
I was wondering about that.
I know that there's like a really good joke in there my sleep deprived brain isn't going. Because I'm like, marrying God, but I'm like, that one's like way too obvious. Don't. Oh, oh wow. Nope, that is not something I can say without repercussions. Anywho, the funeral procession had 8 people. So there was Joseph, there was her landlord, and then they were 6 of her friends. And there are also women who had testified at the inquest. Which I did skip over the inquest because basically it's everyone giving testimony that we've already covered as part of what they knew about her life and the timeline leading up to her death.
Right.
And it's like, so the jury came back and went, yeah, this is definitely a verdict of somebody done murdered her.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really much else to cover there. However, even though like the people who were officially part of the funeral and the procession were the 8 people, there were thousands of people who gathered outside of the church to observe this. So it's the same thing we talked about with Catherine Eddowes, where by this point, everybody in that district was like taking on that this is happening to us. This is a part of us. The inscription on her grave marker, I think is I decided to include it here to end things on because I think it's so it reads, in loving memory of Marie Jeanette Kelly, none but the lonely hearts can know my sadness. Love lives forever. My dad is a big fan of saying that no one truly dies as long as they're remembered. So it's not the way you want to end up being remembered at all. But a part of them lives on as long as we're telling the actual stories of their lives and who they were.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to plug it one more time because I cannot stress how good this book is and how important it is for advocating for the truth of these women's lives. Since this year, for Jack the Ripper Fest, the focus is on the victims. And that is the untold stories of the lives, the untold lives of the women killed by Jack the Ripper. Give me 2 seconds and I will look up who the author on that is. I don't know why I can never remember her name. Haley Rubenhold. So you can find this, I know for a fact it's available on Amazon and Kindle, paperback, hardback. If you have the Overdrive app, so this is a free app that's provided by all the libraries across the US, and it allows you to rent or check out digital content. So if you can't like go to your library to get a copy of it, whatever digital, like the book or an audio, whatever, you will most likely be able to go through the Overdrive app and be able to check out either the ebook or the audiobook.
Mm-hmm.
So that concludes all of our stuff on Jack the Ripper.
For this year.
For this year. Yes, for this year. This year. Jack the Ripper Fest will be back next year.
This will be an ongoing thing because there's so much to talk about.
There is so much, and we all know that this is my jam. This is like specifically what I'm going to school for. As soon as I can figure out what the fudge is going on with the academic hold. But this is specifically what I'm going to school for. And I don't have like a cute little name or title, and part of the problem has been trying to figure out exactly what all I need to do to put into the field that I'm looking at. But what I'm looking at is the socioeconomic and political factors that influenced the psychology of both killers and how their crimes were investigated. And this is the whole case that started all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's plenty. There's always more coming out later. I just totally blanked. I blanked again.
Maybe.
Y'all, you have been so patient with me on this one and my blanking. I do not know where that accent came from. Listening too much. I've been listening to a shit ton of historical AF podcast, and Kina is an Arkansas girl,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I'm just emulating that because of how tired I currently am. Back to the original point. That concludes Jack the Ripper Fest for this year. Thank you all for being patient while we took those couple of weeks off. So, my knee surgery went well, though. Healing well.
Yeah, that's good.
We have next week off again for the holiday. I should say for the US holiday. And then we're back on I do not have a calendar in front of me, but we're back on, I think it's the 9th. No, is that? Yeah, the 9th, I think, is the first Thursday in December. That does not sound right.
Mm-mm.
Second? Whatever. We are back on the first Thursday in December, and Kate doesn't know she's doing this now. I'm dropping it on her, even though we've talked about this. Kate will be covering Krampus.
Okay.
So that's going to be fun. We're going to go on in on upbeat here. We love you so much. Thank you for coming.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, be a bitch.
Carry a big stick
And don't
and
get
don't get murdered.
Did I even finish saying murdered? Or did I say murd?
I don't know.
No. Whatever. Thank you guys for joining us. We love you all. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye. And live. End video here. And end video. Do maybe